So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, broadcast and recorded live on blogtalkradio.com from the new media and baseball capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. There's a dead guy in Mama Bauer's trunk at the Dairy Queen in Himmarshee, I'm probably saying that wrong, in Himmarshee, Florida. And Mama's middle daughter, Mace, an animal trapper, is pissed. Okay, that's all you need to know to get interested in the first novel by my old friend Deborah Sharp. It's titled Mama Does Time, and boy, does she ever. Debra was a longtime reporter for USA Today who recently gave it all up to pursue the dream of becoming a novelist. And damned if she didn't beat the odds and not only sell her first novel, but a second, too, Mama Rides Shotgun, which will be the second Mace Bauer Mystery, sometime in 2009. Deborah Sharp, welcome to Mr. Media.
Thank you, Bob. It's great to be here.
How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. I love that intro that you are the baseball and new media capital of the world. Go Rays.
Yeah, go Rays, baby. Oh, man. You know, there's nothing better than doing a show like this and be able to have on, you know, someone you consider an old friend to talk about something as exciting as a first novel.
It is exciting. I got to tell you, it's a ball. I'm having a blast.
And you know, of course, that all your old reporter friends secretly hate you for crossing over and succeeding.
Yeah, they're all saying on the one hand, "Oh, you're doing so great. This is so great for you," and on the other hand, they're cursing me behind their back, I'm sure.
To take a line.
Follow the dream.
To take a line from Peanuts, that Deborah Sharp, how I hate her. So
it is every journalist's dream, isn't it?
It is. It really is. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, you go after every story, and you do it day in and day out, and every day you talk to somebody different. And as you start getting a little older, not that you and I could ever get older, but as you get a little older, you start thinking, you know, it'd be nice to, you know, do something where I don't have to chase strangers all the time, and I can just write out of my head, and God, maybe if somebody would just buy it.
Yeah, that's the rub, yeah. And I was very lucky. I realize it's like getting struck by lightning and, you know, a lot luckier, but, you know, I mean, the odds are about the same to actually get a publishing contract. So I realize every day, and I'm grateful every day about how lucky I am.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got questions for you, but I want to give out our phone number, and I see we've already got a caller. If you've got a question for Deborah Sharp, you want to talk to her, she is the author of Mama Does Time, a Mace Bauer Mystery. You can give us a call tonight if you're listening to us live, 646-595-3135. Let's see. Hi, do you have a question or comment for Deborah Sharp?
I've read the book. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to know what her inspiration was.
Or who? Oh, come on now.
Shall we say who that is, or shall we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even I know who that is.
You know.
Hi, Kerry.
Hi there.
You know, if you're going to try and, you know, disguise your identity, you may as well get rid of the broadcaster voice. Okay, that's my husband, who is a pretty well-known television broadcaster. You might want to put a bag over the receiver or something, honey, if you really want to carry this off well.
All right, let me ask you another question then. Your chapters are awfully short. Is that for the attention span of people like me who only really watch television and don't normally read books?
Well, you know, I did come from USA Today, so that those short chapters come naturally. But actually, there is a funny story about those short chapters. I wrote those because I do come from USA Today, and it was very natural to me to do the short attention span type chapters. And a guy comes up to me one time, and I'm learning that readers can be a little bit strange, Bob. Guy walks up to me and he says, "I love the fact your chapters are so short." So I launched into this authorly story about, oh, well, with today's compromised attention span, I think that it really heightens the narrative tension and blah, 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 blah. And he said, yeah, well, that might be true, but that's not why I like the fact your chapters are short. And I said, okay. And he said, you see, I take your book with me into the bathroom.
I know where this is going.
Yes, and he says to me, and I've had a little trouble in that area. The doctor's prescribed for me a high-fiber diet, so when I take Mama Does Time into the bathroom, I can read the chapter. It's just short enough. I get all my business done, and I can get out. And I said, well, thank you for sharing. So, yes, it's nice to have readers come up and tell me that they like the book, and I don't really want to know exactly how they like the book sometimes.
Or where, yeah. Well, since we have the pleasure of your husband's company, let me ask you something I was going to save for later. And by the way, folks, if you don't know, this is Kerry Sanders. He's a correspondent with NBC News. You see him pretty much every day, wherever there's news happening, and it's a national story. Kerry's there. I saw Kerry this morning. I'm trying to think where. Was it in Orlando on the?
Yep, I'm in Orlando with his ongoing story of whether the body that's been found belongs to the 2-year-old Kaylee Anthony, and a very tragic nightmare of a murder.
Well, there you go, folks. We all go back many years to when Kerry was a local reporter at the Fox affiliate. I guess it was CBS affiliate then.
It all changes around, but indeed it was the CBS station back then.
And Debra was with USA Today. I think more freelancing for them then than
right.
And they're just wonderful people, and we miss them here in Tampa. But the reason this is all happening, this conversation, is that I saw one of them on Facebook, and then saw that the other one was on, and we connected via Facebook. Debra said, "Hey, I got a novel," and I was like, "Wow, let's come on the show, let's talk. I mean, let's get a write-off out of it." But anyway, my question is this: what is Kerry's contribution to the novel? Is it that did he give you feedback along the way, or did he just know when to shut up and get out of the writer's way?
That's exactly it. I think he's learned that there is such a thing as just me sitting and thinking, and he doesn't want to know anymore why am I not doing anything. I'm just sitting and thinking. But Kerry would definitely tell you that his contribution, there's a very hunky detective and that's kind of the love interest for the main character. And Kerry likes to tell everybody that he shares many of the qualities of this hunky detective from Miami. So he thinks that's his contribution, and I haven't disabused him of that notion because I just really don't want to hurt the guy's feelings, We've been married 20 years, and he's got a fragile ego. He is on TV.
You're funny.
Oh, man. Well, Kerry, you want to rebut that at all? This is your grand opportunity.
No, we'll just let this survive on the Internet as is. Permanent record.
Well, Kerry, while you're here with us, I'm kind of curious. When Debra, how was it decided between the two of you? Let me ask you this: that Debra would give up USA Today and write a novel. Obviously, it's a wonderful thing to say. I'm going to sit down and write a novel. But when you're relying on that extra, that 2-income family. Is that a bit of a problem?
We just happen to be very frugal and live underneath our means, and we're lucky to do that. The reality was Debra wasn't happy doing the news thing anymore. She was beyond it, and I still enjoy this a lot. I enjoy the opportunity to go to all different places, meet all different types of things, and see the highs and the lows and all the things in between. I think Debra had just gotten exhausted by it, Maybe she's got a softer heart, and emotionally it was wearing on her.
Well, there is a lot of sadness in the news. Witness the very story Kerry's working on right now. This 2-year-old child brutally murdered. And after 20 years, those kinds of stories take their toll. At least they did on me, and I think they do on many journalists. And I was just lucky enough to say, hey, let's cut back here, let's cut back there. I'm just not happy doing this anymore. Can we do it on one salary for a while? And Kerry is waiting for that first royalty check to finally roll in after 4 years. But, and I joke that I'm going to be getting Social Security before the royalty checks start.
I'm convinced this whole book business is Hollywood accounting, and we'll never see anything.
Oh, God. Do you need me to confirm that? Because
yes,
I can.
Mr. Author of 9 books, by the way.
Yeah, well, thank you. But, it is. The book business is sadly very much like the Hollywood TV and movie business, and the accounting for those of us that are not in that top 1% is very shady.
Yeah.
I hear that The Godfather might make some money next year.
Yeah, there you go, right? That's a tremendous example.
I do think that, people are so desperate to be published, and they really, it's a dream of so many people that when you hear somebody wants your book, you don't really ask the hard questions. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody else. My accountant was kind of horrified with, the deal that was struck for me. And I didn't really ask the questions because, frankly, I just wanted my book out there. I wanted to be, I had something to say. I think that my book is a lot of fun. It's going to bring a smile to people's faces, and I got a smile out of writing the book and the subsequent ones. I'm now on number 3. And
wow.
That's important to me, and I don't think I'm ever, and many people in the business are never going to be millionaires.
I'm very sorry to hear you say that, but okay.
Yeah, it's not going to happen for us, Bob. Well, maybe it will. You never know.
So how, Kerry, let me ask you this. How did Deborah change once she started writing? Is she more relaxed? Is she, does she have to go and lock herself? Now, I know you travel a lot, so it may be the perfect arrangement.
No, I think that the changes in Deborah is actually she's a more relaxed person now. Because the deadline is a different deadline. Deborah is very very organized and very dedicated, but she doesn't have an editor calling her at 10 minutes to deadline asking questions that nobody in their right mind would have ever asked her in the day and expecting an answer within the next 10 minutes. Because that's what editors do, for those who don't understand the news business. There's always some bizarre question that they ask you at the last minute that never crossed your mind or anybody else's mind, and now they want the answer to it because they're going to press any minute now. So, I've seen Deborah. She's very dedicated. She writes. As she likes to tell me, even if it's not in her head, she sits there and writes because she'll correct it or improve it later. She just wants to make sure she's going forward.
Well, let me add something there, Bob. I do want to mention that none of my editors at USA Today ever called with those last-minute ridiculous questions that reporters often get. My editors at USA Today were always exemplary editors.
Yeah, they did it by email.
I was going to say, they called an hour before deadline. They didn't wait till the last minute. Deborah, I have to say, I understand completely what you're getting at in terms of reaching a point where you're tired of chasing the stories. Part of the reason that I revived Mr. Media 2 years ago as a podcast and an audio thing was that I'm a little tired. I'm still, I don't chase as many stories as I used to, and I'm looking at my age and I'm thinking, I'd like to do things a little differently, and the opportunity to do a podcast and talk to interesting people, sometimes help out a friend even, and maybe over time actually earn some money on it seemed promising.
Can I just say, because I poked around your website a bit before we went on, and I am just so honored and humbled really to be in the company of some of the folks you've interviewed. You really have everybody on there. All kinds of, movie stars and sports stars and radio people and journalists and authors. I do have to say, though, I'm wondering why the novelists are placed just below bloggers on your index and, just barely above the sexperts, okay? You have some people who are experts in sex, and I'm wondering why novelists fit where they did on your index.
Alphabetical.
There you go. Yeah, right. That's not true, but that's okay.
Well, let me put it to you this way. If you look again, you'll see that the people in sex and pornography are above the people in comic books, if that makes you feel any better. Well, I really am very grateful for the chance to come on and talk about Mama Does Time. So, I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Kerry, do you want to stay with us, or do you want us to let you go?
Yeah, I'll just listen in. I'm going to drop off.
All right, Kerry, thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you.
Likewise.
All right, take care. Let's see. All right. Now that he's gone, let's get down to business here.
Let's get down to the dirt.
Plus, you can talk about him now that he's gone if you want to.
No, you asked about how often he's gone, and we've added it up, and I think he's gone almost 200 days out of the year. So we figure over the course of our 20-year marriage, we've really only been married something like 7 years or something. My math isn't that great, but it kind of works out that way.
Well, it keeps it fresh. And the funny thing is, I mean, we haven't seen you. I know the last time we saw you and Kerry was at Carmelita's restaurant in St. Petersburg.
Oh my goodness!
And I think we were going along having a very nice meal, and I think you guys had said at the time that you were moving down to the Lauderdale area, and it was like, oh crap, here's some nice people we like going out to eat with, and they're gone. And the funny thing is, because Kerry is on TV all the time, it doesn't feel like it's been that long, having had that contact. And the reality is, of course, it has been. We haven't, this last week or two, we've talked a couple times. But let's come back here. How did you get into the mindset to stop writing real stories and start fictionalizing? Was it difficult to make that switch?
Well, the switch was difficult, and I'll just talk a little bit about what led up to the switch, because I think we talked before about how, the sadness of the news business was really beginning to weigh on me, and really after 9/11, that kind of became more and more apparent that, there was just this steady diet of tragedy and war and sadness. And one of my last assignments for USA Today was actually profiling soldiers who'd been killed in Afghanistan and Iraq. And that is, that takes a toll. That is really tough to sit across the kitchen table from people who have lost everything, suffered the greatest loss people can suffer, and just absorb all of that. And I just finally thought, I just can't do this anymore, and I wanted to do such a good job for those people because I thought that they had made the greatest sacrifice, and yet it was just really wearing on me. And at the same time, Kerry was actually in Iraq, and he was covering the war, and so there was that worry, and it was just really, really tough, and I just thought to myself, I just can't do this anymore. So I went 180 degrees, and I came up with this idea of just writing about these crazy, gals in Middle Florida. They're in kind of the rodeo and ranches part of the state that nobody knows about. And I just wanted to, I found the mama character. I was briefing through the newspaper, and I saw an ad of an older woman driving a turquoise convertible. Her mouth was open and full laugh, and she was having a blast. This woman just looked like she was enjoying life. And immediately I thought to myself, that woman is mama, and I want to tell where her story goes.
Interesting.
Yeah,
and
so that's how it started.
Do you find that the writing style is very different from what you had been doing all these years?
Oh yeah. I mean, I joked before about the short chapters, but I really had to fight that journalist urge to reveal everything that you know in your first paragraph. I mean, it was very difficult to stretch out a scene and to put in things like sights and smells and sounds and things like that really flesh out a novel, whereas you just don't have the space to do that in most news stories. So, it was very different. And then also, I kind of immediately thought maybe I had a little bit of an inflated sense of myself or something, but I'm like, well, I've been a professional writer for 20-some years. Of course I can write a mystery novel. I love to read mystery novels. I'll be great at that. And I sat down and I got nothing. I mean, I sat there thinking, okay, this is what it's like to pull something out of your head with no telephones ringing and no story assignments coming in and, no actual event unfolding that I'm sitting there observing. Just to pull something out of your head wasn't that easy. So I was a little surprised by that. So yes, it's very different.
I can attest to that. I have taken a whack at it 3 or 4 times in the last 10 years, and a part of the problem I have is, especially you recall this from when you're freelancing, you're so used to getting paid for every word that you write, and then you have to sit down and, if you do I write nonfiction a lot. I work with business people and other people and help them tell their story as kind of a accredited ghostwriter. And, for that type of thing, you write a proposal. You don't have to write the whole book. When you do fiction, unless you're going to tell me that it was different in this case, you really have to write the whole book because an editor really has to see. First, they have to be grabbed. The first chapter has to grab them so that they keep reading, and then they'll read the whole thing. But
right.
you can't get away with writing a chapter and saying, okay, this is what the rest of the book is going to be like. They don't buy them that way.
No, they don't like that. And the way I actually did it, I had a face-to-face. I went to a mystery writers conference, happened to be right here in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale area where I live. And I had a face-to-face meeting with some editors and agents, and I happened to meet the editor who became my editor at Midnight Ink. And the pitch session is just like that. You know, it's like an elevator pitch that they have in the movie business. I mean, you very quickly tell what your book is about, and they're kind of thumbs up or thumbs down. So she said, oh, yeah, that sounds good. And, send me the first 50 pages. And so I did, and I didn't hear a word for 7 months.
Oh, my, really?
Yeah, so, that could be kind of frustrating, but I just, I kept sending it around. I sent it to a couple of other people. I didn't really try very hard because I knew she was interested, and, I heard a couple of, I haven't gotten to it, so it wasn't like I didn't hear, any word, but, yeah, I mean, it took 7 months to get to it. But once she did, then within a few months, I had my contract for the 2-book deal, which was very nice, and my second book, that one's called Mama Ride Shotgun, and that comes out next summer. So the same characters, it's a series. So you'll see, Mama and her 3 daughters. Mace Bauer is the middle daughter, the only one who's still single. So you'll see those characters recur. And now I'm just negotiating a contract for the 3rd book, and that one is called Mama Gets Hitched, in which Mama marries husband number 5.
And does Detective Martinez, will we see him again?
We will see him again, yes. He will also be a recurring character.
Okay, I kind of sense that. Now, in the book, we just mentioned that Mace Bauer, whose mysteries these are, and who is the lead character, is single. The only one of Mama's daughters who is single. She seems a little frustrated. Are you going to end her frustration at some point?
Well, if this is about her sexual frustration, Bob, I have to tell you I'm a Lutheran and I don't do sex scenes. I barely talk about sex, let alone write those heaving bosom scenes. It's a little too tough for me. But, yeah, I mean, think of Lake Wobegon. That's kind of like, the uptight raising that I had. Well, the frustration, I don't know if you mean, though, she's awfully frustrated with Mama, and that continues. That's a constant source of tension because Mama is this beautiful Southern belle, and Mace is this outdoorsy tomboy type, and all Mama wants to do is have Mace put on a little makeup. Oh, honey, you would be so pretty if you just wear a little bit of makeup, and she wants her to flirt and flutter her eyelashes, and this is just against everything that Mace believes in or wants to do. So there's this great mother-daughter tension, I think, that goes throughout the book. But at the same time, I think the sisters and the Mama have this great loving relationship too. So I think it's honest to God family stuff. But as far as yes, I will keep throwing roadblocks up because if you're as old as I do and remember the old show Moonlighting, after Maddie and Bruce Willis got together, it didn't have the tension, or Sam and Diane from Cheers. I mean, it just doesn't have the tension anymore. So I do keep throwing roadblocks up between Mace and her romantic encounters.
But I have to point out that Maddie and I think his name was David, something like that on the show on Moonlighting. You got the impression that some of their tension was handled off screen with other characters, so they didn't always come at you as frustrated. But I understand what you're saying, and there has to be that one clean book down the line that I can. And if my daughter sees me reading a book, it's nice to be able to say to her, yeah, you could probably read this one.
Yeah, my mom is 94, and she hears every word of the books. I mean, she's kind of my first sounding board. And the only thing she doesn't like is the title of the first one, which is Mama Does Time. She said to me the other day, I don't think I like that title. And I'm kind of like, well, Mom, it's too late. The book's already out. Well, I think people are going to think I'm doing time. And I said, I think they might know that it's fiction, Mom. Of course, she has absolutely no complaint with the fact that the Mama has been married multiple times, kind of like my own Mama, and that the Mama likes cheap pink wine, kind of like my own Mama, and that the Mama loves to go out and gamble and, lose lots of money at the slots, kind of like my own Mama. No problem with any of those characteristics.
Well, that answers the question about any real-life parallels to the real-life Mama. I say that Mace's mama is a little younger than your mama.
Yes, by about. But then Mace is a little younger than me too. Mace is the idealized me. She's 20 years younger. She's 5 inches taller, and she is just, the strong, independent type that can just, basically wrestle a gator, which she does. So.
Wow. Let me give out our phone number again. If you've got a comment or question for Deborah Sharp, the author of Mama Does Time, a Mace Bauer Mystery, give us a call, 646-595-3135. By the way, while you're listening to this interview, you can open a new browser window and surf over to Deborah's website, which is www.debra, it's DEBORAH, Sharp, SHARP.com, DeborahSharpSolid.com, and you can learn more about her book. And later, and I mean later, after you've listened to the interview, you can open and hear an audio excerpt from the book on her website. So, what was tougher, Deborah, writing a novel or choosing an author photo?
Oh, I think you might have seen my essay about choosing my author photo, and really, how do you present yourself to the world? I mean, that was such a huge question for me, and I never really thought of myself as a vain person, but I went absolutely nuts right before my author photo. I mean, Kerry thought that I had truly gone off the rails. He just ducked. I mean, because he came in at one point, he said, you like to wear scarves. Why don't you wear a scarf? And I'm like, I can't wear a scarf. Everyone will think I'm just trying to hide my neck waddle. What's wrong with you? I mean, I just went, I was like in, Naomi Campbell supermodel meltdown. I was just like so crazy. Yeah, and I don't know what happened to me. So yeah, choosing the author photo was actually harder than writing the book.
Now I'm guessing, knowing a little something about your husband, that he must have enjoyed this, actually, recalling his history with being told what to wear and how to dress for TV. That he probably was having a good time telling you how you should dress for your photo.
He's been consulted to death. I mean, especially in local TV, they do that a lot about what you can and cannot wear. And there was a very ill-fated fashion attempt on their part. This was well before he got to NBC, where they wanted him to look older. Of course, now nobody makes that complaint. Please try and look older. But way back when in Tampa, they wanted Kerry to look older. And so they convinced him to wear little tiny round glasses, like John Lennon glasses, and slick back his hair, and wear suspenders and a bow tie. So put all these fashion faux pas together, and it was just not a pretty sight. Poor Kerry.
Well, when you're hiring Bozo the Clown to advise your reporters on how to dress, this is what you get. Folks, you should go and look it up, because Kerry got a lot of attention, a lot more attention than I think they were banking on. But anyway.
Not in a good way. Not in a good way.
No.
Yeah.
Poor Kerry. But it did. In some ways, it did change his life. So now, had you ever tried fiction before? I mean, back in college or.
Actually, I wasn't one of those kids who just always knew I was going to be a fiction writer. I mean, I used to love the Nancy Drew books when I was a girl, and I always loved reading mysteries. But I have a degree in psychology. I have a master's. I was in a PhD program in psychology, and kind of decided that, midway through I earned my master's, and I said, this just isn't working for me. So I switched into journalism, which very coincidentally and happily for me happened to be the building right next door to the psych building. So that was kind of like, my career path has not been, I was not one of those people who totally planned out a plan and then followed it from A to Z. My career path has been kind of up and down. But no, I never really thought, I must write fiction. But I always did love mysteries, and really the very first short story I ever wrote was called Mama's Turquoise Convertible, and it was basically what became this series. And that was after I left USA Today. So, yeah, I didn't really, didn't have the whole background in studying English literature or anything. Really came from a totally different background.
So now you're really pissing off all your old reporter friends, because you're basically saying you succeeded on the first try.
Oh no. Okay, let me backtrack for just a moment. Let me say that I had that failed manuscript in my desk, and there was an actual first manuscript. Now that I think about it, that I worked on like 10 years before I quit, And I finished it. When I finally quit, I finished it. It was set here in Fort Lauderdale. It was this hard-driving reporter character. A lot of it was based on some of the stories that I covered. There was Santeria murders. There was this and that. And I got done with it, and I absolutely hated it. Hated the reporter. I thought she was a real smart aleck. And I'm thinking, okay, I hate this woman. If I hate her, I don't think the reader's going to love her that much. And I didn't love it. I mean, really did not love it. So, and it was fiction, but it was kind of like a fictionalized version of me and of the reporting gig that I'd been doing for 20 years. So, didn't love it. So I consider the Mama series and the short story I wrote off that picture that I saw way back when. I consider that really my first attempt at real fiction because it's completely not what I know.
Now, we talked a little bit about Mama from Mama Does Time being a little similar to your own mom. What about Mace? Does she share many characteristics with her author?
Well, like I mentioned before, she is kind of the idealized me. She's younger, she's stronger, she's taller. But, there are other things that I do share with her. I mean, I love nature. But Mace is a real participant. She works in a nature park, and she has a sideline where she traps animals. Now, I would not do that. I love nature. I love to walk through nature. But if a possum jumped on me, I would probably have a heart attack. I mean, so I'm not really the participant that she is. Although I do, I consider myself a nature lover, but not up close and that personal. Although I did for the second book, Mama Rides Shotgun, I actually rode the Florida Cracker Trail. And that was up close and personal. And even though I rode it a lot as a young person, I had my own horse when I was a kid. I mean, I don't remember the saddles being quite that hard like 40-some years ago, So when I rode across the state for this Florida Cracker Trail, which is a 6-day trek across the state on horseback and camping out, that was quite up close and personal. And the folks from the Florida Cracker Trail contacted me recently, and they said, hey, are you going to come ride the ride again? And I said, are you insane? No, I am not going to ride the ride again. That was a once-in-a-lifetime event for me, and I really got a lot out of it, but I never want to repeat it.
What do you love about your new life as a novelist?
Well, I do love the freedom to make things up after 20 years of being bound by the facts, and despite what a lot of people think, that reporters just go around making everything up, obviously we don't do that, and we're not supposed to do it. Some people have done it, and they've kind of gotten themselves drummed out of the business about it. But once I got into the feel of how fiction comes about, and, just freeing myself up to make things up, that's a real joy. I mean, that's really something cool, especially when it's going well and the characters are kind of talking to you. So I love that part of it, and I also love, and I've been surprised how much I really love this. When people say, I'm reading the book, I'm really enjoying it, it's giving me a smile, I giggled out loud, I love that. And I never really thought of myself as being like real needy for gratification because, you don't get a lot of that in journalism. I mean, people, especially in this day and age, I mean, it's a tough business. It's a tough business. And people don't love journalists. I think they're ranked somewhere around the car salesman, level. So, I mean, to have people actually come up and say they're enjoying what I've written is just, it's a thrill. It really is.
And what do you hate about it?
I don't like the promotion that well. I won't say I hate it because I've kind of come around on it, but, I was so scared at the very idea. I mean, my husband is definitely the spotlight hog in the family. I mean, I was very comfortable being in the background and never being in the spotlight. And the fact that you have to go out and talk about your work and talk about your book and talk about yourself is, was very terrifying to me. So I actually went to Toastmasters, and that's the group that helps you do public speaking. And, I did like a 3-month crash course, and they really helped me a lot. And then my husband also, oh, my God, this was horrifying. He taped me as I was reading my work and talking a little bit. And, once I saw myself on videotape, after I got over the horror of seeing myself, he had some very constructive ideas for ways that I could improve that. So, that part didn't come naturally to me, and I still don't love that part, is going out and talking. And, Kerry and I have this kind of joke when I do book signings and talks and things like that, and he does this motion like, the monkey that clashes the cymbals together, because we have this thing that we go, dance, monkey, dance. And so he'll be sitting in the back, and he'll do this little thing with his hands of the monkey clashing the cymbals together. Dance, monkey, dance.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Now, have you had the book signing, the store book signing, where, no one has shown up, or have you not had to experience that yet?
Well, not so far, because fortunately we've had the signings where we know a lot of people. Kerry and I both being in the media for 20 years, we know lots of folks in most of the major markets of Florida. So I've carefully picked and chosen where I've wanted to go, because I don't want that. And I know, there is going to be a day when I show up and there's 2 or 3 people there, and they just really have no interest in hearing me talk. So far I've been lucky, and I haven't had that. But I did wrestle Salman Rushdie for the last lemon poppy seed muffin on the breakfast buffet at the Miami Book Fair.
And who won?
I did.
All right.
I mean, the guy's had a fatwa, but he's never come up against me. No, I joke. I mean, I didn't actually wrestle him, but I did reach past him in a very rude Miami-like manner because it was the last lemon poppy seed muffin, and I looked over and I saw that the person who I had, very brusquely reached past was Salman Rushdie, and I immediately said, "Oh, Mr. Rushdie, I'm so sorry. Would you like the last lemon poppy seed muffin?" He says, "No, that's all right. You obviously need it."
Oh, man.
Ooh, snap.
Wow. I guess we know why Padma left him. Wow.
Yeah, no, he wasn't that. He wasn't unkind. I'm just, I'm fictionalizing for effect. He was very gracious and just a wonderful guy, but I was pretty embarrassed that I basically bowled him over to get that last muffin.
Well, Deborah, I think we've got another call here for you. Let's take a listen. Hi, do you have a comment or question for Deborah Sharp? Hello? Hi, do you have a question for Deborah? Okay.
Maybe not.
Maybe
they haven't taken Toastmasters yet, and they didn't want to speak in public.
That could be. Well, if you decide that you do want to ask a question, give us a call back. I'll give out the number one more time. We're going to talk a little bit longer. If you've got a question for Deborah Sharp, the author of Mama Does Time, a Mace Bauer Mystery, 646-595-3135. Happy to take your calls. So you've written the second book. You're working on the third book. Was the experience at all different on the second book in terms of I used to cover, I don't know if you remember this, but I used to cover pop music, and the thing that the artists would talk about, you'd interview them for they'd get their second record or their second album out, and they'd say, had my whole lifetime to write the first record, and then your success. And you have, maybe 9 to 12 months to write the second one.
Yeah.
What was different about the second one than
the
first? Well,
actually, I was kind of lucky because when I signed the contract, Midnight Ink Books, which is a publishing company out of Minnesota, they're not huge, and so they had already had their catalog complete. They'd already, signed up the number of books they were going to put out for the next year. So I actually had 2 years. So I had that whole year to polish Mama Does Time, and then, almost a whole nother year to write Mama Rides Shotgun. And that was very lucky for me. At the time, I thought, oh, my God, 2 years, that's so long. But I used that time really, really well, I think. I mean, I got up a website. I did a lot of things that you can't do if you have that next book rushing out. And I'm kind of feeling that right now with book number 3, because now they are coming a little bit closer. And, I'm not quite done with book number 3, and, I'm looking at a deadline on that. So, yes, I do see where they come a little bit closer, and maybe you don't have quite as much time to baby it along. But then, on the other hand, I think writing becomes a little bit easier, and especially I think if you're writing a series. I mean, I know my characters now. I'm not creating the wheel every time I sit down. I mean, I'm throwing new characters in the mix, too. But, Mace, Maddie, and Marty, the 3 sisters, and their mama, and Martinez to some extent, although he comes in and out of the books. But, I mean, I know those folks. And Mama's would-be fifth husband, Sal Provenza, Big Sal, who's from New York, and oh, my God, that's throwing a whole wrench into the works in little Himmarshee, Florida, because he's a Yankee.
And we don't want to know how you did it back up there in Yankee Land.
That's right. What is it about everybody who comes from the north and they tell us how we used to do things back up north? And I'm like, well, if you used to do it that way, why don't y'all go back? Because, I mean, if it's so great, why are you living down here?
Right. Exactly. So what happens? What's the synopsis for book 2?
Well, book 2, Mama Rides Shotgun, it is set on the Florida Cracker Trail, and Mama convinces Mace to saddle up for some country gal bonding time before Mama ties the sacred knot of matrimony for the 5th time. So off they go on this cross-state horseback ride, and everything, starts pretty well, except that Mama's trying to lasso every stray cowboy she sees for Mace. And everything starts pretty well until the wealthy rancher, one of the ranchers who's hosting the Cracker Trail riders, keels over dead in his cowboy chili. And it goes from there, So,
because I was thinking, when I heard the title, Mama Rides Shotgun, I have to tell you, I'm thinking that maybe instead of a mystery, maybe it's a horror novel, because, the idea I'm just thinking of Mace and what I've read in the first book, the idea for Mace of having Mama riding shotgun for like a long period of time, it just sounds like, agony for her.
Well, right, like she may turn the shotgun on her mama and maybe murder her. But no, you got to know, I mean, if this is so realistic for mother-daughter relationships because you really push each other's buttons, but you love each other despite it all. So even though Mama knows exactly what button to push and just kind of drives Mace, right to the edge, she never drives her completely over the edge because she always redeems herself in one way or another. And actually, having her ride shotgun on solving a mystery isn't all that bad because as flighty and kooky as she can be, she has a pretty sharp mind behind that, that platinum hairdo that she wears. So are you doing, I guess we kind of start winding up. Are you doing anything besides the Mace Bauer Mysteries these days? I'm really not. For a while, for the first couple of years, I was doing the occasional USA Today story, but the writing is full time for me now, and the fiction writing is, and that's the way I like it. That's I can kind of live in my little make believe world, and I love that.
Sounds like a great way to be. I wish I could be as bold and just drop what I'm doing and take a crack at it. It's my attitude right now is that I've just got to find the time to squeeze it into other things. I'm not so bold that I can take off, and I think my wife would kill me, frankly.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I realize I know every day that I am lucky to be living this life. I mean, first of all, to be, writing is wonderful. And then, with just a little budget, cutting back here, cutting back there, I mean, we were able to do this on one salary until all those millions start rolling in from my novels, Bob, which I know you know is going to happen any day now, right? I do know that. I do know that. Well, folks, you can order Deborah Sharp's first novel, Mama Does Time, a Mace Bauer Mystery, at great bookstores everywhere or online from Amazon.com or even MR Media, that's MrMedia.com. And check out her website, www.Deborah, DEBORAH, Sharp, SHARP, .com. Again, solid, DeborahSharp.com. Deborah, what can I say? I'm so happy for you. I'm delighted that this is happening. Couldn't think of a nicer person to have this opportunity and this success. And, of course, I just wish you and Kerry the best and look for, continued good things. Well, that is so nice of you. And, again, I am really honored that you invited me to come on to the show. I mean, after all, you are the Charlie Rose of Blog Talk Radio. Oh, God. Oh, boy. Now I know it's time to go. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Bob. Seriously, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. My pleasure. Good to talk to you, and I hope we'll talk to you very soon. Take care, Deb. All right. Well, folks, for more Novelist interviews,
surf over to our main website, www.mrmedia.com. That's where you can listen to my earlier conversations with Tim Dorsey, Sarah Zarr, Jody Thomas, John Darden, James Sheehan, Kristen Harmel, Peter Gollenbach, and many, many other novelists. And please think about writing an online review of Mr. Media, casting a vote for Mr. Media, or marking Mr. Media as one of your favorites, whether you listen on Blog Talk Radio, Pointer Online, Digital Journal, Podcast Pickle, Vox, Folio, Mediafly, Podfeed.net, Blueberry, Zencast, Odeo, the Kindle Reader from Amazon, or iTunes. If you've got an idea for a guest, email me directly at bob@Andelman, ANDELMAN.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, just twitter.com/Andelman, ANDELMAN. It's a good way to get updates when we've added a new show or a new story or something of that kind. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us tonight. I always appreciate when you give up a little part of your day to spend it with us. Come back real soon, and thanks for listening.